Hey, it's a Thursday morning here in Zagreb, the capital city of Croatia. I flew here yesterday from Munich and took the bus to the central bus station and then walked to my hotel, the Hilton Garden Inn. That's all in another video. So this is my first time in Zagreb and I have wanted to visit this city for some time now. The weather, it's a little cool, not terribly cold though, and a little cloudy, but at least it's not raining. All I've got with me is my camera, my hard copy tourist map, Google Maps on my phone, and a fair amount of curiosity. So we are off now to get our first views and impressions of the city of Zagreb. So let's go. So at this busy street, the Soviet-era bus station that we saw yesterday is over there. The trams run along here, and the city center is in that direction, so we'll head that way. Check out this circular building on the map. There it is. This section of the city is called the Lower Town, which is the newer part of Zagreb. Relatively speaking, of course, to a Californian like me, this is all old. But the true old town with most of the important historic sites is known as the Upper Town because much of it is on a hill overlooking the Lower Town. So we'll continue to head in that direction. And I am trying not to appear to be too obviously a tourist, but honestly, that's going to be pretty hard to do. Just have the feeling that I need to be a little more discreet with the camera than I am in some other places where vloggers and tourists are a little more prevalent. Remembering that this city, which is now the capital of Croatia, the city was once part of Yugoslavia under the communist rule, and at least in this section has a lot of vestiges of that era. I'm really finding that Google Maps or Similar map navigation apps are a real necessity when walking around these cities, especially when the local language is so different from my own. And Google Maps is fine for driving, but not always for walking. I have found that apps using the OpenStreetMap datasets are much more detailed and useful when walking around the historic centers. I'll put up an example for the Zagreb Old Town that we're walking to. On the left, Google Maps, and on the right, the Maps.me app that uses the OpenStreetMap datasets. There's a lot more detail when you need it, and OpenStreetMap is also available in your browser if you want to check it out that way. Wow, look at the size of that HDMI cable. Okay, well, I am alternating between Google Maps on the phone and my tourist map, because oh, look at these things. A vacuum cleaner. Different appliances. Yeah, I am alternating between these two because each of them has their strengths and weaknesses. The tourist map tells me where to go to the tourist destinations, which is the Old Town specifically. And I'm approaching that because I've just entered this pedestrian street. But Google Maps tells me where I am at any given point. So let's just continue walking into the Old Town, or what's called the Upper Town, on this nice pedestrian street. You can buy your skiing wear here. Now it's starting to get different and interesting in its own way. Honestly, a little less rough and a little more pedestrian friendly. And also windy. Looks like a windstorm is coming, which will play havoc with my audio. I just get the feeling that I'm not in California anymore. There's the visitor center. Oh, check out this 3D model of the city. Really helps you visualize the upper town and the lower town. And I've got my more detailed tourist map of the upper town here. Which I'm getting ready to venture into. But for the moment I'm just sitting at this square. Don't know the name of this square, but there's what looks like a statue of a famous general here, so it's definitely a landmark, which will help me get oriented when I try to find my way back to the hotel tonight. Very interesting, though. A little Mark Knopfler action is always good. Brothers in Arms, one of his best. And the wind has really picked up here. It's like a windstorm. So I may be a little selective on my filming for a little while. Well, this is interesting. Here's a funicular or a cable car. Well, since spring is coming, we've got a little flower market here. Still winter though. I can't pronounce the name, but this pedestrian street starts at the main square and then runs up to the northern edge of the old town. It's one of the main destinations of town for both tourists and locals, for restaurants, cafes, shops, and just general sightseeing. We'll walk up the entire length and then come back to the main square. If it looks empty of people, it's because we're here at a non-peak time. We'll come back here at night tomorrow, when it should be more lively. And it looks like with this modern building, the Hotel Academia, you probably reach about the limits of the old town. Okay, we're going to head back down this pedestrian street towards the main square again. But there's a couple of side streets I'd like to show you along the way. So let's go. As we walk down this street, whose name I can't pronounce, I want to tell you about this map guide I picked up at the tourist information office at the airport. I'll show it to you on screen. It's called Step by Step, a walking map of classic Zagreb. It's got a schematic type map of the old town that shows the streets and the main sites, which are illustrated with drawings and annotated with descriptions. Mine is in English, and I think they have versions for several other languages as well. And on the reverse side is a similar map of the lower town. If you're a first-time visitor to Zagreb, you can use this guide to get a very well-informed self-walking tour of the town, free of charge and on your own time. I'm going to use mine a lot tomorrow as I explore the upper old town in more detail. Once again, it's called Step by Step, and you can pick it up at the airport or the tourist information on the main square. This is the Opatavina pedestrian street just north of the Dolok market, where you can see some local vendors have set up stalls selling various things. So even if the larger farmers market isn't open, like today, you can stroll up here to possibly find some locally made products. I also read that this is the craft beer street of Zagreb. So if you want to sample some of the local brews, this is the place to do it. And also there's a nice park at the northern end of the street. And it's known for some unusual street art that's been painted there. One of the more popular brew pubs, for you Lord of the Rings fans especially. And as we enter here to take a peek at the park, and yes, they are correct about the unusual artwork in the park. And you can see the medieval wall over there. I read it's the Kaptal ramparts. Kaptal being the name of this section of the upper town. And they were built at the end of the 15th century to protect the Kaptal from Ottoman attacks. We're coming up on the main square now. Well, we've had a first glimpse at parts of the lower town and the upper town, or old town, of Zagreb, and all I can say at this point is this is an extremely fascinating city. I have wanted to visit this city for a long time, and I am very happy that I finally made it. There's lots more to see over the next couple of days, especially here in the old town. So be sure to come back and watch the upcoming videos. I think that if you're a traveler like I am, I just might convince you to put Zagreb on your short list. So see you in the next one. Ciao.